Hi, I'm Karen, and this is Graham, and we are a pair of 50-something seasoned travellers with a Benimar Milio 201 and a passion for the big outdoors. We have road tripped across from Wiltshire to eastern Germany to the Saxony-Switzerland National Park to experience this remarkable landscape. Hopefully you will enjoy the journey with us, and if you do, please like and subscribe. And so to day 3 of our trip, on kick-out day from the campsite, camping Königstein, we set off early and got back on the road, reliving some of the views from the previous day as we passed through Bad Schondau and crossed the Germany-Czech Republic country border. Following the road alongside the River Elbe, we passed the old customs checkpoint and into Hrensko in search of a parking spot for the day. There were plenty of parking opportunities along the river, but we continued on as we were unsure of the distance to our trail. Hrensko town looked incredible, and we would love to return for a proper tour, but sadly we ran out of time. Pravčická Brána near Hrensko, Czech Republic, was one of the places we had on our bucket list before setting off from home. Another touristy attraction, we made sure to arrive at the car park as early as possible, and still we grabbed possibly the last parking spot suitable for our modest 6-metre motorhome. It cost us €20 or 500 Czech Koruna to park for the day. You could choose which currency to use at the parking machine, which we didn't think was too bad. On arrival, the rain looked to be set in for the day, but the forecast had promised sun, and so we settled down for a pre-hike cuppa in the hope that it would all blow over. And blow me, it did. After watching fellow hikers set off up the steps in front of our van, kitted out in full waterproofs, we emerged to glorious sunshine, and it didn't rain a drop for the remainder of the day. The trail climbed steps and followed above the car park, then dropped down and continued alongside the road before dropping off onto a gravel track where the ascent began. When we arrived at the top, following a winding and gruelling trail up through the slowly recovering forest, the visitor centre first, then the archway itself came into view. Pravčická Brána is the largest naturally formed sandstone archway in Europe, and it is quite something to behold. It made us feel incredibly small and incredibly humbled. The arch has an inside height of 16 metres and a span of 26.5 metres. It was formed by erosion of the soft sandstone over millions of years. Legend says that it was named after a hermit called Pravčická, who lived at the arch for a while. Taking a look at the map of the national park here, we realised just how little a dent we had made in exploring the area in the 4 days we'd been here. We really must return again soon. There are so many other trails, attractions and methods of accessing this fantastic scenery that we have yet to experience. Kamenist's Gorge, for example, is stunning, accessible by foot and via the water on boat tours, providing a very different outlook on the sandstone from the bottom up. The Pravčická archway is on private land, and it cost us 125 Czech Koruna each, or €5, to enter, this giving us access to restaurants and toilets, and from there we could take a multitude of hiking trails. Before we had a proper wander about, we stopped for a drink beneath the archway, which was an incredible place to sit. Definitely one of our top 10, I would say. In the same way as the Bastille Bridge became a tourist attraction during the age of Romanticism during the 18th and 19th centuries, so the painters and artists were also drawn towards this magnificent archway. The arch was a perfect backdrop for artists such as Carl Gustavia Caras, and the author Hans Christian Andersen was also known to have visited. At the end of the 19th century, Prince Edmund Clary Aldringen started building a hotel beside Pravčická Brána called Sokolí Hnízdo, or Falcon's Nest. It was built in Alpine style and today is where the restaurant and museum reside. Unable to have caffeinated drinks, I referred to Google Translate to assist me in requesting a fruit tea in Czech. I had been asking for Früchte tea for the past 2 weeks. The lad on the restaurant stall really appreciated our attempts to speak Czech and was telling us that he can comfortably speak German and English to tourists. He suggested that this seemed to cover all visitor needs. I loved his quote he gave us that it is said in Czechia that the number of languages a person speaks is the number of lives they live. A mantra for us all to live by indeed, although a tough one for us Brits. After our refreshment break, we took a wander around the archway and spotted people way up on the top of the rocks overlooking us. Guessing that this would make for an excellent viewpoint for some epic photos, we headed over to the area map to get our bearings and find the trail. Narrowing down to a couple of options, we enjoyed a ramble up and around the rock formations, finding ourselves eventually up onto the trail from which we could view Pravčická Brána from above. Hiking around the nearby trails, we bagged some spectacular views over the area. As a result of the lost trees, you could really see so much more of the geology, but the foliage was coming back and nature was mending the damage gradually. Nature will always find a way. You could see how well trodden the sandstone had been in places. There were literal steps in the stone in some sections. Apparently this is the reason that you're no longer permitted to walk across the top of the archway, as deep grooves were appearing, and geologists suggested this could cause collapse. Some of the vistas looked almost prehistoric, and we wondered if there would be any trails which would take us down there safely. Or maybe they are simply cut off from the rest of the world, with unique, undiscovered species of animal and plant living down there in harmony and peace, far from interfering humans. On the way back down to find Miley, we spotted a signpost for a cave and thought it would be rude not to give it a glance, especially with it only being 100 metres away. It was a pretty impressive specimen of a cave. Here it was evident that the sandstone is a very easily weathered rock. Unfortunately, we did not make a note of the name of the cave or its history, neither can we find anything online regarding it. Do please let us know in the comments if you know anything about this cave. We loved the laid-back feel of the Czech Republic. The people were very friendly, from the Pravčická resort to the Tesco, yes Tesco, supermarket we popped into on our way through and back to Germany. One last leap before racing back west, we set off for Görlitz-Zgorzelec so that we could experience some of the culture and history of the German and Polish towns so intrinsically linked together.